Starting with a magic circle, we're taking our yarn, we're crossing the long end over the short. We're going to hold on right where they cross with our non-dominant hand. We're taking our hook through the front of the loop toward the back. I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it up. We're going to wrap that yarn around one more time, pull through the loop you just made. There's our little magic circle. And we're working down the end that has the 2 strands. So we're going to go through the front. We're going to wrap our yarn, pull it up, pull through both of those. We're just doing 6 single crochets into our circle. So that single crochet, you just go in, you wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook. Once we have all 6, we're going to use our short tail to close up our little circle. So we're just leaving our hook in there as we do that. I got a little split in my yarn. I'm going to back it up a little bit. I hate when that happens. And once we pull on that tail that brings everything together, we are going to join our little circle there. So we're leaving the hook in there so we don't lose anything. Pull, everything comes together. Make it as snug as you can. And then finding the very first stitch you made, we're going to go through the top of that stitch, making sure we grab both loops. We're going to wrap our yarn. We're going to slip through there, and we're going to slip through that last loop that we had on our hook to join. And then we'll chain 1, and we're ready for round 2. For round 2, we're just going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So you're going right back where you kind of came from with that chain. We're going in, we're going to wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook, and then we're going back into that exact same spot. So we're creating an increased stitch. So we started with 6 stitches. Now at the end we should have 12. And once we finish this round, when we have all 12, we're going to slip stitch to join. We're going to chain 1, and then we've got something just a little different for round 3. So keep going here, 2 in every stitch, finish it up, and we will get back together for round 3. Before we start on round 3, we just want to kind of flip this the other way, so we're looking at the wrong side. We're going to pull that tail that we started with, make sure it's as snug as possible, and then we are going to thread that tail onto a yarn needle. And this just helps secure this so it's as safe as possible for our little kitty cats. So we're going to go through any one of those little legs on our first round of stitches, and we're just making a loop. We're bringing that yarn back through there to create a simple knot, and then just making sure that's as snug as we can. So now we're ready for round 3. So we're flipping back to the right side, making sure we're looking at the right side of our work here. So we've chained 1 already. We're going to single crochet 1 into the very first stitch, and then our increased stitch will be next, and we are repeating this same little pattern all the way around. So we're going to go a single crochet in that next one, so just 1 stitch, and then that following stitch gets 2 single crochets worked into that same spot. So keep going. When you get to the end of this round, you should have 18 stitches. You'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then we will be ready for round 4. We're ready for round 4. This is our last increase round for this color. So we're going to have a single crochet, 1 in the very first 2 stitches. So a single, and then that 3rd stitch will get the increased stitch. So we're working into that same spot again, and we are repeating that same pattern. So we've got 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then that next stitch gets 2 single crochets worked in there. When you get to the end, you should have 24. You'll slip stitch to join, you'll chain 1, and then for rounds 5, 6, and 7, those are just plain single crochet rounds, so every stitch will get 1 individual single crochet stitch. You'll do the same join at the end, the same chain 1 to bring you up for the next round. And then after you finish this last increase, rounds 5, 6, and 7 as plain single crochet rounds, we'll get back together for round 8. Round 8, we are decreasing. Our first 2 stitches will be plain single crochet, so we're just going in, making a single stitch in 1, and then in stitch 2, same, and then for the 3rd and 4th stitches, we are going to work those together. If you'd like to, you can grab the 2 front loops, wrap, pull through both of those, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hooks to do your decrease. If you have some other way of decreasing your stitches that you prefer, you absolutely can do it that way. So 1, 1, and then a decrease. And just like before, we're repeating the same little setup over and over again until we get to the end of the round. This is going to take us down to 18 stitches. At the end of the round will be slip stitch joining, and then we will chain 1. And for the following round, round 9, that one's just going to be a plain single crochet round, so you don't have to do anything fancy. You're just giving each stitch a stitch worked into it. So you'll have, again, 18 stitches at the end of that one as well. You'll do the same join, you'll do the same chain 1, and then we will get back together for round 10. So keep going until you finish this one, then a plain round, and then we'll meet up for round 10. We're ready for round 10 here. We're going to take our tail. We should have plenty of toy now to be able to just kind of tuck that in and have it stay in there out of our way. Our very first stitch will just be a plain single crochet, so you're going into that first one, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook, and then those next 2 stitches rather are going to get worked together. So again, it's just a single crochet and then a single crochet decrease or a single crochet 2 together for the next. When you get to the end, we're back down to 12 stitches this time. We'll use the same join at the end. We'll chain 1 to work our next row or round, however you want to think of it. So after we finish our decrease, we've got a big batch of just plain old single crochet rounds. So every one of those rounds end up with just 12 stitches. And that's going to be sort of the like long skinny part of our drumstick here, the part you would probably hold on to if you were eating a drumstick. I don't know. I haven't eaten meat in literal decades, so I'm not sure I've ever even had a drumstick, if I'm being totally honest. But the skinny part. You can tell me how you choose to hold them to eat them. And before we work those next rounds, we want to take an opportunity to kind of fill up this bottom round part with some stuffing and some catnip. If you want catnip, you don't have to put it in there, but if you do put it in, I'd put it in first, then add your stuffing. Once you've got that in there, rounds 11 through 16 are going to be just those plain old rounds. So keep going up and up and up until you have 16 rounds, and then we will meet back for round 17. We're done through round 16. For round 17, it's going to be another plain single crochet row, but this time when we get to the end, we're not going to join yet. So go ahead and finish up that one. Then we are going to put more stuffing just in this part here, and we'll start working on our color change and our next part. Okay, we got our stuffing in there. We finished that 17th round. We did not join. We are going to snip away the brown, put it off to the side. We're going to tie on the white yarn. We want our knots to kind of stay toward the inside of the toy. So you can just kind of leave your hook in there in that last loop you made, just so that we don't lose our stitch or end up with it too tight. Okay, so I'm tying the white to the brown and the brown to the white just to make a little double knot. And then these little tails can just end up kind of tucked inside. So you just add them in there with the stuffing. And if they're too long, you can snip off any extra, but should be able to just jam them inside there. So now we're going to use the white to join the very first and last stitches of that last round we finished. So we're going through and slip through the next one. We'll chain 1. And for round 18, we're going to be working in the front loops only. So if you're looking at the V shape of our stitches across the top here, just the front piece, we're going to not grab the back this time. And we're going to be doing 2 single crochets into each one of those stitches for our front loop only. So we're going into the front loop. The first one's always the toughest. wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through both, and then we're going back into that same spot. So we're repeating this all the way around. 2 single crochets each stitch into the front loop only. When you get to the end, you'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and we will be on to rounds 19 and 20. 19 and 20 we're working back through the stitch the regular way, and those will be plain single crochet rounds. So go ahead and finish this increase round, then 2 plain rounds for 19 and 20. At the end of all 3 of these, you'll have 24 stitches, and we'll meet back up for round 21. For round 21, we're doing another decrease this time. We are going to be working the first 2 stitches together. So again, you could just go through the front loops only, wrap, pull through the 2 that you just went into, wrap, pull through the remaining 2 on the hook to decrease, or you could do any other decrease stitch you like. We are repeating that decrease for every little section here. When we get to the end, we'll have gone from 24 stitches down to 12. You can slip stitch at the end. We'll chain 1 as we still have 1 more round to go after this. But before we get to round 22, when we finish this one, we're going to add another little batch of stuffing in, and that will be our last opportunity to put stuffing. So if you feel like you need to really jam any more down to the bottom or into the little long skinny part of your drumstick, absolutely feel free. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on going, and then we'll get back together. You'll finish this round, put your stuffing in, and then we'll get back together to do our last round. And then we just have one last little trick to pull off before the very end, before we're all the way done. So go ahead, finish this, add your stuffing, get back together with me for round 22. And we're on to round 22, our very last round, our very last decrease here. We're doing the same thing we did the last one, where we are repeating a decrease all the way around. So we're gonna just work 2 stitches together, and then we're gonna do it again and again and again until we get back to the end. This is gonna take us from 12 stitches down to 6. When we get to the end, we will slip stitch to join, but then we are going to cut a sizable tail of the white. We'll be using the tail not only just to tie off the end, but to weave the final stitches closed, so we can close up what's left of the opening at the top of our toy here. And then we'll also be using that tail to create that little divide in the knuckle on this white part, what would be the bone here. And then that's it. We are almost done here. So we are back at the beginning here. We're gonna join our stitches, and then we're going to again cut a nice long tail, and we'll finish from there. So to finish up here, we're gonna wrap that tail around our hook, and we're gonna pull it through that very last little loop we had on our hook, making sure it's nice and tight. And then to close up this part, we're taking our yarn needle again, and we're going to thread that yarn needle on. It's going to stay on for the rest of the time here, but we don't need to knot it on. We'll just kind of make the end coming out a little bit long so that it's got enough to hold on to there. So to weave them closed, we're going into the very first stitch with our needle and out the next one. And then we're bringing all that tail with us, and then same thing, going in and out the next 2 stitches, and then the same with our last 2. And once we finished all those, we just pull on it, and you can see that little hole closes right up, making that as tight as we can. I'm going to grab a little leg from that join, and we're going to pull that through until you have just enough of a loop there that we can pull ourselves back through to create just a simple knot. And we'll make it as tight as we can, and then we want to find our join line. I like to use this sort of as a guide for where we're going to go through next. So we've closed up, we're going to take our needle right through those stitches at the join, out the other side. Well, if you can, kind of splitting up the 2 stitches so it's like right in the center. And then we're going to pull all the way through, and we're going to give that as much tension as we can without the yarn ripping. And we're going to go over the top, and we're following right through where that little butt crack we created there. And out the other side, and we're going to do that at least one more time so that strand is as secure as possible. So you're just pulling it, giving it as much tension as you can manage without breaking your yarn. And we're going through trying to come in and out of the same spots every time so that there's not like a big mess under there. Well, once you get back through on that last one, you're confident that that little squish you made isn't going anywhere. We are going to tie a knot here. So we're going to grab anywhere really, just trying to grab as little as possible while still getting a whole piece of thread. And then back through the loop. And we're going to tie it super tight. And just taking that needle through the toy out somewhere fairly far away. I'm pulling it all the way down so that tail is now tucked inside your toy. Pulling on it a little bit so you can snip it off without getting any of your stitches on your toy. And there it is. We're all done. Our little drumstick just in time for Thanksgiving. I think go ahead and give that to your little kitty cat friends. Thanks for joining me. Bye. It's almost Thanksgiving, so here's a little updated drumstick tutorial here to make this little cat toy for your cat friends. You could always do it without catnip and use whatever size yarn you wanted to make it bigger. Maybe it's a toy for a kiddo, for their little kitchen set, whatever you feel like using it for is fine with me. The things you'll need to make this are some scissors, a 4mm crochet hook, yarn needles. You'll need catnip if you're going for a cat toy, totally optional still, polyfill stuffing. You'll need some brown yarn for the base and then some white yarn, both of those in worsted weight. And if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, you can find a link to the pattern collection I have available on my bio. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started.